All right, folks, listen up. So let's talk about something in this video that I feel many people don't have a clear understanding on, and that's the topic of processed food. Now, when you hear processed food, this generally comes with a negative connotation, and we think of things like, I don't know, like packaged candies and fast food, you know, McDonald's, Jack in the Box, things like this, microwave, pizza rolls and that kind of stuff, right? Well, not so fast. The term processed isn't like is or isn't thing. It's not a definitive catch-all term. When you hear processed food, it's more like a continuum, right? So for instance, on one end of the spectrum, you have cutting or heating. That is processed food. When you chew food and break it up, you are processing food. And that's not to be pedantic, right? That is just quite literally the definition. Now, what most people say is processed food would be better referred to as highly processed food. Things like, your fast foods and your microwavable foods and things of that nature. These things generally have several ingredients, many of them things that don't normally occur in the food itself, like various preservatives or additional colors or things to give the food a flavor or a mix of flavors that it wouldn't normally have. Another way to determine if something is highly processed is if the first couple of the several ingredients aren't normal things. Like high fructose corn syrup, for instance. Now, it's not going to kill you. I'm not trying to demonize it, but that's a thing that we made. It doesn't exist in nature. If I look at a barbecue sauce and the first ingredient is high fructose corn syrup, then that is an indication to me that it is more processed than a barbecue sauce that either doesn't have any high fructose corn syrup or it has high fructose corn syrup in it, but it's like the fourth or fifth ingredient as opposed to the first. Okay, so now we know what we're talking about when we say processed. How does that affect you, the person that is new to their fitness journey? The most important thing to consider acutely, that is of immediate concern to you, is many of these highly processed foods, so for instance the barbecue sauce with the high fructose corn syrup on the front end, are going to be very palatable and so psychologically difficult to limit your consumption of. This is why I strongly recommend now, as the next step, after you take your first couple steps, is to eat real food. I mean, I get it. Like getting ground beef and potatoes and cutting them thin and putting them on a pan and baking them in the oven and doing all this extra stuff so you can have a burger and fries that are just real food as opposed to running to McDonald's or In-N-Out and grabbing one. It's a lot more work, but you know what's in it, and you also know, because it's real food, that after a reasonable amount, you'll probably be satisfied. Because since you made it, there aren't any extra ingredients in there to make it that much more tasty, so you go back and buy another one, or two, or three. So as much as you can, folks, eat real food. Thanks for watching. Consistency is a superpower. Stay in the fight.